Hello, people of the world of the internet watching videos that have to do with cars. Welcome to this, my 1990 Honda CRX SI Restoration Series, which will soon have VTEC power thanks to a V16A SIR2 spec engine.
If you're new here or you missed out in the previous video, I was in the process of test fitting the carbon fiber panels for the front of the car when I discovered that the engine bay was out of square from a previous fender bender in this car's past life.
I think this is going to be the strongest place.
And being that I am not a full-blown body shop and don't have a frame stretcher,
I think this will work.
I have to get a little bit creative and a tiny bit sketchy to fix this issue.
This is tricky. Probably hook it on right here. Getting a good bite like right here. I think this is the prime real estate. Maybe something like this. I don't want to pull down below because it's tweaked up here. There's one thing I learned in pallet buildup class 686 times is don't have it twisted. Yeah, I think that's probably all right. Ta-da! My homemade frame stretching machine. I don't have to go very much, literally just 1/4 of an inch on the top corner of the substructure where it's twisted a little bit. Oh, that was dangerous. I got anchored nice and low where it's at its strongest point and it'll put minimal flex on the post. Same goes for the bottom over here where it's anchored. Hook it on that bolt right there. 61 3/4 at that point, 62.
It was at this point the gravity of the sketchiness of the situation slowly started to set in.
Look at that. It's literally a 32nd of an inch from being the same as the other side. You can probably see right here there's a crease. And that, I don't really want to hit all in the same area. You can tell it's under a lot of tension right here. I'm putting a dolly underneath it so I can kind of straighten this area out where it's rippled. I could use a metal hammer, but I don't want to unless I have to. That way I don't chip up the metal. All right, I'm gonna release the Kraken. I don't know why I said that. Please don't go crazy. Oh, 61 1/8 hole on center, 7/8. All right, that didn't do anything. Why did that not? I thought that would work.
Whatever impacted this car in this top corner obviously exerted more force than I am with a ratchet strap. At least I think. I'm not a physicist. I don't even know if a physicist is the type of person that would analyze something like that. But regardless, I gotta put some more ass into it.
Oh. I went a little bit too far. When I started this, the passenger corner was about 1/4 of an inch too far in from square. Now it's about a 16th to a 32nd of an inch, a little bit past square. So on center to that bolt hole, I'm about 60 3/8, give or take. 60 3/8. It's like the same. I guess it's not off. I thought it was a little bit too far, but maybe it's relaxed now. It's literally 60 3/8 both ways, so it's perfectly squared. Hopefully I didn't bend this bolt down here. No. It was actually pretty obvious what the damage was down there. It was kind of buckled down underneath the battery tray area, and I just put the metal back where it was supposed to be, and that I think is what held it in place and allowed it to fix. How does my carbon fender fit now?
Even though this is a vehicle restoration, the whole purpose why I started doing this to begin with was to make the carbon fiber fit correctly.
Wow, that bolt, that lines up perfect now over there.
Not only is it important for the fenders to bolt into their correct holes, but also the hood should have equal gaps on either side all the way up.
It doesn't hit! That's what's up! That's perfect fitment right there in the front. It's still a little wide at the rear though, but I don't have a bolt here or here holding it in place. That's probably why. Well, that's an easy fix. It's just rubbing right there on the seam sealer. There's a bunch of seam sealer that's stuck on. That's what's up. Problem solved. Hood prop. Just barely. It's like 2 little strips of seam sealer right there. You can see where it's tan beige color. It's just rubbing on those 2 little driplets. In all actuality, that ridge might be kind of tweaked too, and that's what's impacting it. There it was all crusty. dusty underneath that seam sealer. You see there's a little bit of corrosion that started right there. So it's a good thing I cleaned all this off so I can redo it. I actually think that might be a drain, possibly. No, because it's blocked on the other side too, unless that was a, I don't know. This area is seriously rubbing. It's hard to know what has happened in this car in 30 something years. I don't know if it's warped up here. I don't think it is.
Just when I thought this problem was an easy solution as repairing some old damage to the car, it wasn't. It was a little bit of a situation of the bolts.
So it's a case of a little bit of both. This tab on the carbon fiber fender right here protrudes further outward than the other side. So this tab is physically a little bit incorrect, just a little. Either way though, this is night and day better. It is now day number 2, and it's time for phase number 2. I don't even know what the hell that means, but it sounded provocative. I didn't really think this out very well. I know, it looks dumb. This right here is a new DA I recently purchased because it has a dust collection butthole like the block sanders I've been using. This is a 240 plus grit sandpaper. My guess is the gel coat on this is fairly thin, so I'm gonna be a little overly cautious. Yeah, like that. I'm also leaving these on the car rather than doing it off. I want to be extra careful of the body lines on this carbon fiber because they're hard enough to see as it is.
As tempting as it is to want to bodywork the gel coat, that's not the correct way.
Oh yeah, it doesn't take much. Can already see a little bit of a low spot right there.
There is a possibility that just high build alone will be enough to smooth out these panels since the imperfections is super minor within the gel coat.
I don't want to go through that gel coat. That gel coat is probably pretty thin.
For obvious reasons, because carbon fiber is so visually appealing, there are very few tutorials or videos out there for body working carbon fiber to apply paint on top of. So I had to kind of just wing it and also reach out to Paint Society here on YouTube to see if there was any tips or advice to getting the ultimate finish on these panels.
These are 100% going to need a slight skim because there are some little lows. They're minor, but you could run the DA over those curves if you're really skilled and really quick, but why risk it with carbon?
Have you ever noticed that painter's tape has a very distinct smell to it, kind of like if you were to mix the smell of a sneeze with a bowl of Apple Jacks? I probably shouldn't have said that out loud, let alone put it into a YouTube video.
I got some 220 plus on a Scotch pad. That way it's soft backed, and I lightly am just gonna graze the body line areas to give some tooth. I'm barely putting any pressure, and I'm going crotch face. That way it's kind of uniform. I'm not an expert, but I figure I'm gonna kind of emphasize on this a little bit just because there isn't much info out there. I don't want to break through the gel coat. A lot of people have a misconception when they buy carbon fiber like hoods and trunk lids that it's ready to install on the car as is. Oftentimes that's not the case. You actually want to do this and put a good quality clear coat on it because more likely it just has a gel coat. There isn't even really that good of a clear. They might have a UV inhibitor, but I would definitely put a quality automotive clear coat on stuff like this. This is where it starts getting tricky because all these areas are very intricate. And to sand inside little pockets, you kind of got to ram the sandpaper. Now to get inside here, I'm just going to kind of roll my paper. Now I can really inspect to make sure I got it all. Yeah, satin carbon fiber looks pretty sick actually. Just like scuffing anything made out of metal, you also want to look for shinies on carbon fiber. See right there, that's a shiny. That is where you'd have poor adhesion. So because of the little inflatable paint booth situation I had on the roof, what I'm gonna do next is probably overkill, but I kind of feel like it's the right move to do before I skim coat it. But before I do that,
If you're a return viewer and you've watched all of the videos on the CRX restoration series thus far, and you're wondering how many more paint and bodywork videos there's gonna be, I will say that at least I'm showing you how much work actually goes into doing paint and bodywork on a vehicle and not trying to condense it all into one video, because then it wouldn't be giving you a true sense of scale and the amount of work and effort that goes into restoring a vehicle. Too easy for this to get glossed over, pun intended, because it's a paint type of situation, but I really want you to actually get to see what the bulk of the work that goes into restoring a car is. And besides, this isn't TikTok, so you all have attention spans that are larger than those of a grape.
A way for me to kind of inspect my work here. Getting this wet simulates having clear coat on there.
I mean, it doesn't look like I got a low or a high. It looks pretty spot on to where it should be.
I'm gonna call that good. They actually make a product for this, so you don't have to waste wax and grease remover. But money is money, so it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what product you buy, just make it work. Try this area down here. That looks good. I don't think I wanna do anything else to that right there. There's no easier way for me to put this other than this is an overwhelming amount of work for one human being to try to do and try to make videos out of it for you on a schedule. I just moved the camera over here so I could record something that was thought-provoking, but I've tried recording the sentence 6 times now and my stomach keeps growling loud enough that that's all you can hear on camera and not me talking. So I'm talking really fast right now so you can hear my stomach growling because I'm hungry. I've consulted about 3 different people and gone back and forth on what I should do about this roof area, and I'm gonna do this. Crack the old stuff off. I hope this is gonna cover the whole roof. This is gonna be iffy.
Oh, it's starting to get hard.
That's not bad. I got pretty good coverage. This side's been sitting for about an hour and change now, and all the skims I just laid out should hopefully be it for the rest of the paint job until it's all in high build, and hopefully it should be very minimal, if anything, after that is taken care of.
I watched a couple videos on bodyworking last night because it's never too late to learn more.
I saw this little technique that I'm gonna give a shot, doing a quick buzz with the DA before I go to block it. Oh, I forgot to turn on the sucker. Oh yeah, I like that. Oh yeah, that is laser straight.
The way in which I'm doing the paint and bodywork onto this car has a great deal to do with what region I live in. And because of the fact that the humidity, it gets down to the single digits and the dew point is as low as 20 degrees Fahrenheit, I don't have to worry about flash rusting as if I were in a wet region. Additionally, all of the panels that were stripped down to bare metal were treated in phosphoric acid before applying the epoxy primer to them. The reason why I bring this up is because there is the potential that corrosion can grow underneath body filler if it is applied directly onto bare metal. The reason being is kind of the same way how a toilet tank sweats. When body filler is curing, the temperature of it will rise, and that could potentially cause little bits of moisture to form underneath the filler on top of the bare metal. However, if you live in a dry region and you're applying your filler with the correct amount of hardener in there so the temperature doesn't get too great and the panel temperature is also warm that you're applying it on, there is little risk of that happening. Regardless, it's always good to apply your glazes and fillers directly to epoxy rather than bare metal to alleviate any of these potential risks from occurring.
It's another day, which means I'm probably falling drastically behind in schedule here, but the car is pretty much ready to go with high build primer, which means I need to make another inflatable paint booth. Gotta give everything a check. I got the lights dimmed just in the right way that I'll really be able to see the surface. I don't see any dings and things. That should look lovely when it's got paint on it.
The passenger door on this car had been replaced with a genuine Honda one at one point in time in its life. Therefore, it had a lot less little dings all throughout and required only 2 little bits of a skim coat to make the panel completely flat and smooth.
Done. I'm curious how bad the lower part of this door is because I didn't do anything to it. This is so hard to try to film. Like, I can't really capture this on camera, but this lower portion of the door is not perfect. So upper half of the door is real good. Lower half though needs a skim. I kind of had a feeling I had to do this down here.
The driver's side door on this car was original to it, and even though it had the car PDR'd before starting paint and bodywork, there was a bunch of super minor shallow imperfections all throughout from what looks like the old body shop that repainted this car tried to remove the door trim, as did the replacement hatch I bought for the car, since the original one had a bunch of holes drilled in it from previous bodywork.
It just dawned on me after moving the car forward that I could have probably used the ratchet straps and positioned the car right there in the center of the 4-post lift and used that as my frame stretcher. I didn't think about it till now, and I'm sure someone will make a comment about it. So I was anchored at the very bottom, so that probably would have been a smarter solution. I don't know. I'll let you guys debate it in the comment section. Either way, it worked. I obviously wouldn't do this on a real frame either. This is just a little structural area. I wasn't pulling that hard. Even though these areas are going to be covered up by the weather stripping, I gotta scuff these because high build's gonna get sprayed on them. My solution for stuff like that is to make a sandwich. Get it? It's a sandwich. I just made someone laugh so hard they almost peed themselves and made 10 times as many people cringe. Gonna use my sandwich, man. If you ever want to know what the suckiest part of painting a car is, it's this, what I am doing right here. Because you're like, this doesn't matter, no one's gonna see this, or it's really small. And I sand, and I sand, and I sand, and I sand, I sand, and then I sand, and I sand, and I sand. I probably already have at least, I don't even know, a couple hundred hours of sanding, and I haven't even had paint on this car yet. This needs one more buzz, there's a couple shinies. That I think is good. Putting it in the light over here, I can really see the areas that need a good feathering, like right here. I would say this is pretty much ready too. Just give this a little hand sand right along this curved edge here. With that said, the next video you see on the Celica, I should be able to spray the high build primer, get everything nice and sealed up, and that will allot me some time to step back to the Celica for a little bit and get that thing hopefully close to being wrapped up. Only time will tell. I'm not gonna rush anything. There's no deadline or anything. It's done right or not done at all. So I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you soon with another video. Bye.